Welcome to the Archon Beta launch party livestream recap / condensed version. We had a super exciting livestream yesterday that ended up going 3 hours long. So I wanted to create a shorter version for you so you can still get basically all the value that I gave yesterday, but in a third of the time. So I cut out a lot of things like the Q&A and waiting for Claude code to finish different parts of our development flow. But if you really do want to be a part of the livestream, definitely check out the full thing. I'll have that linked in the description. And also, be sure to check out the video that I'll link to right here, where I introduce Archon on my channel for the first time. And the purpose of this live stream was twofold. First of all, I wanted to give you a live demonstration of using Archon to give you a deeper understanding of its purpose and how you can leverage it. And then second of all, I wanted to show you that Archon works really well with existing strategies for context engineering that you might be using, like Claude Flow, the BMAD method, spec-driven development, the PRP framework, all these different strategies. And I prove that because the focus of this live stream is using Archon with the BMAD method, which also has been highly requested on my channel recently. So I'm super excited to bring that to you. So that's everything that we've got here for the condensed version of this live stream that you're about to watch. With that, let's get right into it. Welcome everyone to the Archon Beta launch party live stream. I've been looking forward to this all week, all month, all summer, because we've been working our butts off on Archon for so long. And now we have the beta launch, and I cannot wait for it. So yeah, with that, I want to really quickly talk about the plan for the stream today and just like the general structure for it. And then I'll share my screen and we'll just dive right into things. So first of all, this is going to be a pretty casual stream. I'm going to be kind of like leveraging Archon as you would, as a new user, just getting used to the platform, figuring out how you want to integrate it in your own AI development workflow. And maybe I can actually go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is you guys hopefully saw the beta launch video for Archon on Wednesday. Now I want to dive deeper into using Archon. We're going to be building something from scratch. I'll talk about how we can use Archon in existing code bases as well. But I want to start by showing you guys, kind of talking about what Archon is all about. Just to sort of recap some of the things I talked about in the launch video on Wednesday. Then I'll quickly show like how you can get it set up. We'll poke around the user interface a little bit. I'll show like how you connect it to your AI coding assistant with MCP. Then we'll get into using it. And to kind of more simulate what it'd be like for you guys to play around with it for the first time, I'm going to be using Archon in a development workflow that I'm not very familiar with myself. So we're going to be doing some freestyling in this stream. It's going to be fun. And so the development workflow that we are going to be covering in this stream is the BMAD method, which, by the way, it is insane how many comments I get from you guys in my videos and in the Dynamis community asking for me to cover BMAD. So there's a lot of love for this. It is a really cool framework, just one of the methods that we have for context engineering. So I cover the PRP framework a lot on my channel. I've talked about the spec-driven development that we have in AI IDEs like Kiro. BMAD is another method for context engineering. And so we're going to be integrating BMAD with Archon in this stream. And I've done a little bit of prep just to make sure I understand how BMAD works overall, but I haven't used it ever to build a project end to end. And so, like I said, very much freestyling. I'm going to be playing around with how I can integrate Archon with BMAD with you guys live, so that you get a sense of if you're integrating Archon into your development workflow. What does it look like to just poke around and experiment with prompting and using the Archon MCP to really build it into what you're doing already? Like, everyone here has an existing process, or at least you're starting to get yourself introduced to using coding assistants. And so I want to make it really easy to see how Archon can fit in no matter what you already are doing for your AI development workflow. So that's what we're going to be doing, and it's going to be fun. So the first thing that I want to talk about before we get into this is just, what Archon is about. And so I'll dive into that in a second. I guess the last thing that I want to say here before we dive into things is there might be a lot of like, let's just dive into things and get things to work. It's going to be kind of scrappy. It's going to be fun, but I don't know for sure if we're going to have something working end to end by the end of this live stream, because more of the point is diving into how we can experiment with integrating Archon into our workflow versus like let's fully build something end to end. Like I don't have the live stream structured in that way, and I'm doing that intentionally. For the reasons that I've already been talking about. So I don't want to repeat myself here. The one thing I'll say though is if you're interested in seeing my full development workflow in a much more structured way, talking about context engineering and Archon and how I use it in my workflow, something really exciting that I've got going on in the Dynamis community. And I'll actually bring this over from my other monitor here. I'm hosting a half-day workshop, a 4-hour workshop. It's going to be at the end of this month, Wednesday, August 27th. And this is where I'm going to dive into a much more structured approach. So it's going to be a lot different from this live stream. Like this live stream is going to be more casual. We're just building things, freestyling together. I'm going to be answering a lot of your guys' questions in the chat throughout as well. But this workshop is going to be a lot more structured. Like I'll dive into my full AI development workflow, and we're going to build something from scratch using PRPs and Archon. A lot of the things that I've been covering on my channel is going to be in this very comprehensive workshop. So if you're interested in this, like my goal is to make it so that this workshop alone is worth the investment of Dynamis. And so, yeah, I just wanted to mention that really quickly because it's very much like related to like, here's what you'd want to do if you like what we're diving into in this live stream and you want something that's a lot more structured. So definitely check out Dynamis. Also because the prices for Dynamis are going to increase after this weekend. So this is like the special Archon Beta launch weekend, and then prices are going to go up after. So I just wanted to mention that quickly. But for our workshop right now, we're just going to have a really good time. And so, yeah, let's go over to the Archon repo here. It is the operating system for AI coding. And so what that means is it's the command center. So for us, it's a sleek user interface. Like if I go to the project management, for example, we've got a sleek user interface to manage all of our tasks. We've got a place to manage the knowledge that we want to give our coding assistants, so it can perform RAG to like actually search through the Pydantic AI documentation or the Claude Code documentation. So it's a UI for us to manage everything. And then for the coding assistant, it's an MCP server. So it's kind of like leveraging what's native to humans and what's native to coding assistants, so we all can work on the same set of context as we are context engineering. That's the beauty of it. And it's possible to connect it to any AI coding assistant that supports MCP. And so we have instructions. If I go to like the MCP server tab, and I'll talk about how you can get this all running in a second, by the way. But like we have a tab for all of the popular coding assistants, and really just to keep the UI concise, we didn't include like 20 different coding assistants, but you can connect this to every single coding assistant basically. So we have instructions for popular ones like Klein and Claude Code, like we'll be using today. I'll actually copy this command right here. So this is the command that you run when you have Claude installed to hook in the Archon MCP server. And actually, maybe I'll actually just go ahead and do that right now. So I've got my terminal open. We're going to be living and breathing in this terminal today as we do our demo. And so to add the Archon MCP, after I have it up and running, I just have to run this command. Like it's that easy. And I already have it running, which is why I get this message right here. But if I do a Claude MCP list, then it'll check and even validate the connection to Archon. So that's how easy it is to get it connected once you have the UI up and running. And I cover instructions for like how to set up everything in the video that I put out on Wednesday. But really, if you go to this link, so you can just go to the Archon GitHub repository. Also, if you just go to the URL archon.diy, this will take you to the GitHub repository as well. So I have a URL that just like redirects you right to the GitHub repo, so it's really easy for you guys to access it. So yeah, just archon.diy. And then in the README here, I have your quick start instructions. So super, super easy to get started. There are a couple of things that people have been tripping up on that I want to address really quickly. Because honestly, like if you guys want to follow along in this live stream as I start using Archon, I'd welcome it. And so yeah, prereqs, you just need to have Docker desktop. You need a Supabase account. The free tier works. Like you don't have to pay anything to use Archon. Or you can even use local Supabase. So like if you're following along with all my local AI stuff and you have the local AI package up and running, you can use that Supabase. And then also, you just need your API key for OpenAI. We also support Gemini and Ollama. So Ollama is kind of more experimental right now. It's in the works. But we have actually an active effort on that with a PR coming into Archon soon as well. And that's kind of the other big preface I want to give for Archon is like when I say that it's in beta, like there are things that are like not working 100% at this point, and there are more experimental parts of the platform that we have like things that are saying coming soon, or it just does, like it needs to be tidied up. We're working on that. Like I'm putting in a lot of my effort, a majority of my effort into Archon and everything related to context engineering that I have like kind of playing into Archon. So yeah, these are the prereqs. And then you just have to clone the repo and then set up your environment variables. And really, it's just you have to get your Supabase URL and service role key. And maybe I could actually show that really quick as well. I feel like that'd be useful. Just for the people that have been tripping up, one thing that I've been seeing a lot is people are using their anonymous key in Supabase instead of their service role one. And so I'm just gonna bring over my Supabase here and show you what I'm talking about. So I have just like a basic $10 a month micro instance set up for a lot of the testing I've been doing with Archon. You just go to your project settings in Supabase, and when you go to the API key section, you just reveal and copy the service role key. So that's the key that you put into the environment variables for Archon, and then for the data API, you get your URL here. And then you can do a similar thing for self-hosted Supabase. You just get your values from the environment variables. So not to dive too much into the setup right now, just because I covered that in the video on Wednesday already, but I wanted to at least call that out because a couple of issues have been created around that. So yeah. And then once you have your environment variable set up, you can set up your database. And so within the migrations folder, I've got a single script that you can run. So you can copy this script, go into your Supabase SQL editor, and you can create a new snippet, and then you just paste this in and run it. So this is going to create all of the Archon tables for managing your knowledge and your tasks and your documents. Very, very easy setup. And then I'll go back to the README here, because then the last thing is to spin up the containers. So you just run this docker compose command. We got Docker as one of our prereqs for this, and so you run that, and it'll spin up all the containers, and then you have everything running for Archon. And so what that'll look like in your Docker desktop is you'll have 4 containers running under the Archon umbrella. We've got our agents, which this is a feature that is more coming soon. But then we have our MCP server, the user interface that we've already been looking at a bit, and then we have our server that has all of our API endpoints so that our UI can interact with everything that the MCP server can for our coding assistant. So that's what the setup looks like. And then if you go to localhost port 3737, that'll take you through an onboarding flow where we have you set your OpenAI API key, or you can just skip past that and then go and set your Google API key. So we support Gemini as well. And then Ollama, like I said, is experimental, coming soon. So a lot of things that we're working on that are coming soon. It's like things like Ollama. So yeah. And then once you're in Archon and you have everything set up, this is where the fun begins, because this is where we can start to scrape knowledge and get our global rules set up for Archon. This is where the fun begins. And so, yeah, to start, I think now is a good time. I'm going to kind of like treat this as if I'm using Archon from scratch. So I have some things that are crawled already that I'm going to be using in the demo today, but I'm going to act like I don't have that. And so I'm going to start from scratch, talk about like what we're going to be building. And I put a lot of thought into just having like a really cool use case for you guys. And then we'll get into the BMAD method. And we'll actually start more with BMAD and then start seeing how Archon can play into it. Because I want to show you guys how your existing strategies work with Archon. So what we're going to be building today is going to be something kind of like this tool. So if you guys haven't heard of Claude Code UI, and there's a lot of tools that are like it, it's basically a user interface. So like in mobile and on the web, we can manage different Claude Code instances. And so I'll open this image in a new tab so you guys can see kind of like what I envision creating. And again, we might not like have an end result that looks like this by the end of this stream, because I want to focus so much on like answering your guys' questions, talking about Archon and integrating with BMAD, but we might get something kind of like that. We'll see. Well, this is kind of what I'm envisioning here, where we have a user interface. We'll build a website with Next.js where we have just like an easier way to manage our Claude Code instances. And we'll use the Claude Code SDK that they offer so that we can build our own application that is invoking Claude Code. And we can manage the different instances at the same time. We can see like a log of the terminals that we have open and all the work that they're doing, which is also going to be a cool way to manage sub-agents, by the way, within Claude Code. So you can have them all running at the same time and managing them separately. And then like having that integrated with Archon as well. So like this is kind of just to give you guys like a rough idea of what I'm envisioning here, what we're going to create together, just to give you a demo of BMAD plus Archon. And yeah, Claude Code UI is not a tool that I've actually tried myself. I've used other similar ones, but I just found this one recently. And I thought that this was like they just had nice screenshots showing what it looks like. So I thought it'd be a nice way to give you guys a visual of what I'm hoping to create. Because obviously I can't give you guys a demo of something like I do in my YouTube videos. Because in my YouTube videos, I'll fully build it out first. Then I'll record basically like recreating it. So that way I can like give you guys a demo up front and then create basically a replica so you see the full process. So that's what it looks like in something a lot more structured, like a YouTube video or like that workshop that I have in Dynamis coming up here. But then for this live stream, we're just freestyling. So that's what I want to create. So, all right, now we can dive into BMAD. And by the way, once we start using BMAD, that's when we'll have more natural breaks for me to take a look at the chat here. So I have the chat on my left monitor. I see that it's going crazy. I appreciate all you guys being here and commenting. So I'll definitely be diving into some of your guys' questions once we got some things running in Claude Code. So let's start with a little intro to BMAD. And then once we start looking into how we use it, that's when we'll really start to see Archon play into it in a way where like I think you guys will be able to use your imagination to see how Archon can fit into any AI development workflow. So BMAD, it is the foundation of agentic agile-driven development. And yeah, actually, I think 125% is a good zoom here. So I'll stay at this level of zoom. So there's kind of two main workflows that we have with BMAD. Essentially, what BMAD gives us is a bunch of different sub-agents that are experts at different parts of our development workflow. So like in the agentic planning workflow, we have our analyst, we have our project manager, we have our architect. And then when we go into development, we have our Scrum Master agent that's kind of guiding all these different development agents to knock out the different stories, like the different tasks that we have for developing our project. And there are some diagrams that we have in the user guide here that walk us through what this workflow looks like. And yeah, so the BMAD method in general, it's like I said, it's a strategy for context engineering. And it gets pretty in-depth. Like these workflow diagrams, like these mermaid diagrams, they look kind of intimidating. Like there's a lot that goes into this here. So yeah, by the way, like this first one is the planning workflow. And we're going to walk through this and I'll show you how to integrate Archon with this. It's not as complex as it looks. This is the planning workflow. Then once we get into development, we have this second workflow, which I might go through this one or I might actually switch to PRP. We'll see. Like I said, we're freestyling here. So two different workflows that we have for the BMAD method. And the guy that created the BMAD method, he's a genius. Like he's very, very smart. And he's actually got a YouTube channel where he started covering BMAD. I went through his entire 1 hour and 15-minute masterclass that he had on YouTube, by the way. If you just search the BMAD method, you'll find him. But yeah, he's done so much research into project management and best practices for architecting and different like mental models that we can apply to planning projects. And he's done a ton of research into best practices for prompting at different stages of our AI development workflow. And he talks a lot about that in his masterclass as well. And so I just think this is a great use case to like apply BMAD with Archon. And the other thing that he talks about is the whole idea of greenfield versus brownfield projects. So a greenfield project, you can think of it like fresh green pastures. This is a new project that you're starting from scratch. And then brownfield is when you're working in an existing code base. And the BMAD method has different workflows depending on if you're working on an existing code base or not. And I know that that's something that a lot of you guys like in comments in my videos and in the Dynamis community have said like, I want to see more of like, let's use AI coding on an existing project versus something that is greenfield. And so generally, I focus on greenfield, new projects, just because it's a lot easier to show how I apply different strategies. And it's going to be the same in this live stream. I'm creating something from scratch because going through the full planning workflow, it's much easier to integrate Archon and show the different parts of Archon when we're doing a lot more of that like initial research and task management, it's going to be a lot more sparse if we're just like adding new features on an existing code base. There's going to be less tasks overall. There's going to be less research that we have to perform with Archon and like all the knowledge that we have for RAG, because it's going to be more looking at the existing code base versus looking at documentation. You see what I'm saying? Like brownfield projects, it's more let's reference the existing code base to figure out the patterns that we need to develop. With a new project, it's let's look at the documentation for Pydantic AI, for example, to figure out the patterns for developing agents that's recommended for this library. So that's why we're going with greenfield here. The sponsor of this live stream recap is Snyk, and they're bringing us a free webinar that you don't want to miss if you're using AI coding assistants. If you're vibe coding, or even using a more structured approach to using AI coders, like we're doing with Archon and PRPs, there are still security concerns that go beyond traditional code review. That's why Snyk is hosting this free webinar Thursday, August 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Securing Vibe Coding, addressing the security challenges of AI-generated code. The focus is going to be specific to the unique risks that we have with these AI-driven development workflows, how it differs from typical security concerns. This is the kind of thing that we have to be focusing on. Sonia, a staff developer advocate at Snyk, is going to be introducing us to how vibe coding is changing the landscape of development, what these new security concerns are with AI-powered coding, and how we can implement strategies today to reduce these risks and protect our AI-powered development lifecycle. If you're in security, DevOps, or just using AI coding assistants at all, this is the webinar for you to give you the frameworks you need to work with AI coding assistants securely. Plus, if you are an ISC2 member, you get 1 CPE credit just for attending this webinar. So go ahead and register with the link that I have in the description. Again, it's Thursday, August 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And I'm going to be there myself, so I will see you there. So let's go ahead and start, actually. So going back to BMAD here, I'm going to copy the command to get started. And so it's super easy to get BMAD started in any project. All you have to do, and I mean, I've already run this, and so I'll probably just do it on a new folder, show you guys what it looks like. And then I'll go back to my current folder where I already have BMAD set up. I think that'll be the best way to do it. So let me go and get things set up in a new folder here. Okay. All right, so I take that command from the repo. It's just npx BMAD Method install. Super easy. And it's going to install the following packages. That is good. All right, BMAD Method. And then the first thing you want to do is enter the full path to your project, because essentially what BMAD will do is just it's going to install a bunch of configuration and sub-agents, like a lot of different markdown files to get us set up with BMAD in our code base. So this can be an existing code base that you install BMAD into, or in our case, it can just be a brand new folder. And so I'm going to pass in a path here. I'll call it BMAD example. There we go. And then I'm going to install the full system here. And will the PRD, product requirement document, be sharded into multiple files? Yes is the default. Just go with this. PRDs, by the way, guys, this is like the document that has like a very fully written out spec of what you want to create. So when we plan our initial implementation, we put that in a PRD that we'll then use to break into tasks and start implementing. And we'll see that in action as well. So I'm going to say yes. Will the architecture documentation be sharded into multiple files? Sharded just means split up to make things more concise, by the way. So yeah, now we get to pick the IDE that we want to configure, because based on the coding assistant, there are different ways that we need to set up our global rules and set up our sub-agents, things like that. So I'm going to pick Claude Code. So select with spacebar and then confirm with enter. And you can install this in multiple ones, by the way, but I'm just going to go ahead and put this in Claude Code. So there we go, enter to confirm. Pre-built web bundles, I don't really care about that, so I'll just select the default. And then it says the directory does not exist. Would you like to create the directory and continue? I will say yes. There we go. All right, boom, super quick. So there we go. We have everything created. So it created some agents for us. So we have these different commands that we can use to invoke these subagents. So like for example, when we are first starting our project, and we'll see this in a sec, when we want to start planning things, we'll call into the analyst agent that BMAD gives us. And we'll use the analyst will actually leverage Archon to crawl through the documentation for Claude Code in Next.js to help us create some kind of more like initial pseudocode, like that first layer of like, okay, let's think about generally how we want to structure the code base. And we'll actually use Archon with the analyst to do that. And then the analyst is going to output a brief, like a project brief that we're going to store as a document in a new project in Archon. So that's kind of a little teaser for what we're about to do here. But yeah, whenever we do this and we create a new setup with BMAD, I'll open my VS Code and I'll show you really quickly what this looks like in general. So that's going to create this .bmad core folder. So this works on an existing project as well. It's not going to like overwrite anything in your code base. It creates a new folder where we have our different agent teams, our agents. We got the core user guide here. These are all the files that are going to be referenced by our agents as we call upon them in our development workflow. And so like here's the markdown file for the analyst agent, for example. And so, yeah, basically, like each agent starts with an activation notice. So it's like when we call upon the analyst agent, here's what you got to do. And then here are the steps that you have to follow to act as the analyst agent. So when we tell Claude Code or Cursor or Windsurf, whatever, to act as this agent, it reads this file and then basically uses these instructions to change its persona. That's how we're doing. So it's not, the BMAD doesn't actually use like the /agent feature in Claude Code. And the reason for that is it's more of like a general implementation so that you can use basically subagents as prompts in any coding assistant, even the ones that don't have subagents built into it. And so, yeah, subagents, if you guys didn't know, subagents, even in Claude Code, it's really just prompts. Like you have some file that you tell Claude Code to look at, and you say, read the instructions here to act as this persona. That's all we're doing here. And so we're telling it that like your name is Mary, you're a business analyst, here is your role and your style, here are your core principles, and then here are the different commands that a user can invoke. Like we have our help command, we have our command to create our project brief, which is one of the first things we're going to do. So that's essentially how BMAD works. So we have all these different agents that are fit together in this workflow that I was showing you guys in the mermaid diagram earlier, which was, if I pull that up quick, I'll just reference that for you guys again. That is this diagram here. So the analyst is at the beginning here. And so we can go ahead and invoke this. And so let's just dive right in. So I'm going to clear, and then I'm going to enter into Claude. And by the way, Claude MCP list, remember, we've got Archon connected already. I showed you guys how to do that. Maybe I didn't kind of do it in the right order. Like I showed you how to connect Archon, and then I went through like setting it up. But yeah, so we connected it with this command right here. Assuming we have everything up and running, the MCP for Archon is on port 8051 by default. And you can configure that as well if you want. So yeah, we'll jump into a Claude session here. And let's get right into it. And so I came with a little bit of prep. So I know some of the commands that I want to run here. So I have that reference on my other monitor here just to try to make this smooth, though we are mostly freestyling. Like I haven't done that much. And so the first thing that we want to do is if you just do /analyst and then you press tab, we're going to start Mary as our analyst, and it's going to help us create our brief for the project that we want to create. So there we go, /analyst, hello Mary, your business analyst, specialize in blah, 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 and then type help to see my available commands. So we can do *help, and then Mary is going to be prompted to give us the commands that she has, everything that we had in the that markdown file that I showed you. And while she outputs that, the other thing that I want to show you guys, if I go back to Archon here, we have the global rules that we want to create for Archon. So in the settings, and you're going to want to do this whenever you use Archon, we have the IDE global rules. And so based on if you're using Claude Code or not, really there's just like special instructions for Claude Code that we have, and then the rest of your coding assistants can use the same rules here. You can just copy the Claude Code rules, and then you can either create a new claude.md and paste these in, along with the typical global rules that you use, Or if it's an existing project where you already have global rules, then you'll just paste in the instructions for Archon along with everything else that you already have. So whether it's your claude.md or your cursor rules or your windsurf rules, this is just part, like this is the part of your global rules now for Archon. So you can add this in with any of your other existing global rules. So I just wanted to call that out really quickly because I have that set up in this repository already, or this folder already. Otherwise, I literally just have my global rules and then everything for BMAD, and then some stuff for PRP that we'll get into towards the end here. So that's what I have set up right now. So going back to the terminal here, here are the commands that we have for the business analyst. And so we can create a project brief. We can go into YOLO mode, which I saw someone in the chat was asking about YOLO mode. YOLO mode is, instead of like it working alongside you more to plan your project, implement your project, it operates more autonomously. So if you want to just trust it more with the implementation, that's what YOLO mode means. We're going to do some of that here because I want to be pretty concise in going through the BMAD method here. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to brainstorm. So I'm going to use the brainstorm command. So you do like star brainstorm. So the star is just the way to like signal that we are invoking a command here. That's just the convention for BMAD. We do star brainstorm, and then we just send in a prompt for what we want it to research. And so what I want to do, I have this pre-selected, just so you guys don't have to see me type it out here. I want to create a Next.js front end where I can spin off and manage different Claude Code instances through the Claude Code SDK. And I'm speaking to the specific pieces of technology, Claude Code and Next.js, that I have the documentation for in Archon. And so we'll see in a little bit how I'm actually going to ask Mary to reference the documentation through Archon so that we can get a better planning, basically just get a better brief outputted. So there we go. So now there's quite a few different things that we can do after the brainstorming, just based on those same commands that we saw when I did the help command earlier. And so what I want to do is I want to do I want to create a project brief. So I'm going to do create project brief. That's just one of the commands that we have for the analyst. I can just say 2. I want to do command number 2. So instead of, I'm just going to like go through the flow that it's walking me through here and just kind of trust it more. So I'm going to say 2, I want to create a detailed project brief for this concept. And the analyst here is prompted to guide me through it so that I can really be a part of creating the brief. It's not just going to go and off and do it all itself. And so in a second here, we'll see it maybe ask a couple of follow-up questions for us. So let's see. All right. We got some output here. So it's got the executive summary here. So it's starting to do some planning. We'll see if it's not always the same how the analyst works. Like sometimes it'll ask me more follow-up questions, sometimes it won't. I mean, the BMAD method is not always going to like perform the same because LLMs are just unreliable. They don't always do the exact same thing. Like they won't always ask me the same follow-up questions. So I'll just kind of let it rip here. We got success metrics and KPIs. We've got a timeline and milestones. So Mary is very much acting like a project manager here, outlining really important things like what's the timeline for our project. I mean, this isn't actually going to take 24 weeks. This is hilarious. It's not going to be 24 weeks. I promise, guys, you're not stuck in this live stream for 24 weeks. But yeah, we got key milestones, risk assessment, resource requirements, which, I mean, this isn't really accurate to what we're doing here. I guess maybe if we create like sub-agents for each of these things, I suppose. I'm about to spend $200,000 on development. That's kind of funny. So maybe the prompting for the business analyst could be a bit more accurate to like actually integrating this in a development workflow, not with like real people that we have to pay. But you guys get the idea in general. Like it's pretty cool how we have this entire project brief. And so the next thing that I want to do with this brief is I actually want to refine it and then store it as a document in Archon. So we'll start to see more how Archon is integrated with the BMAD method here. So, okay, I'm going back to my instructions here. I'm trying to remember exactly what I want to do next with this. Yeah, let's see. So I'm actually gonna run the help command again. So I want to remember what commands I have. And then also there are some follow-up questions that we've got here. Create user stories, develop competitive analysis, which I'm not really interested in doing that right now. Generate technical implementations. What else could I do? And actually, did the project brief get created? No, it didn't get created yet. Okay, so I'm going to, let's just say this. I'm going to say use Archon to search how to leverage the Claude Code SDK, and then add technical implementation ideas to the project brief and save that brief in a new project I want you to create in Archon. Okay, so here we go. This is where we really start to see the integration here. So we're going to have Mary, instead of just going through the typical flow that you do with the BMAD method where you store all your documents in your source control, like just in your project folder, we're going to actually have her use Archon. So she's going to do some research on how to leverage the Claude Code SDK so that she can help me generate a more technical implementation plan and actually do it based on the Claude Code documentation instead of just like simple research or hallucinating something random. It's going to use Archon. That's going to help a lot. And then we'll store the brief in Archon as well. And we'll do that in a brand new project that we create. So going back to Archon here, within a single project, we've got the tasks tab, and then we have the docs tab. So we'll see Mary create a new project in Archon in a second here. This will pop up, and then there'll be a project brief as well. So first of all, before she does that, she's going to search through our documentation. So everything that we crawled, like I showed you, crawling the Claude Code documentation in real time, that is what we're searching through using the Archon MCP. So we're performing RAG queries, and then we're also searching through the code examples that you saw being generated as well. So I'm going to do, if I do Control R in Claude Code, we can zoom into the output of our different RAG searches. So like when we searched for code examples, we were looking for TypeScript implementations, and let's see what we got here. Trying to there's just a lot of information here. I mean, it's okay that we don't have to understand all of this in detail, but the coding assistant definitely needs to. So let's go up to the first chunk that we retrieved. So let's see. It's kind of hard to okay, so here we go. We got some implementations with the Claude SDK. So it's pulling things from the Claude SDK, which is good. And then we got some things for the TypeScript SDK. So that's what we actually care about using here. So this is good. We're getting some of the code examples, and I'll do Control R to go out of this. We don't need to dive into that forever here. But the important thing is if I go back into Archon, I didn't even have to refresh my page because we have WebSockets. So there's real-time updates with Archon through the MCP and the UI. We have our Claude Code Instance Manager Next.js Control Center project. So there we go. We got a blank slate here. So we got no tasks at this point, no docs, but we're about to create the brief. And so we'll see that here. Now I'll add the enhanced project brief with technical implementation to the newly created project. So now Mary is generating that project brief. And once it is generated, we can go back into Archon and see that. So we'll have to wait a little bit because it's usually a pretty long document. So I'm going to give it some time. So, all right, we have our brief created from our analyst. So I'm going to actually go back. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. I'm going to go back in and let's take a look at this brief really quickly that we've created. +1 for Dynamis, not just because of Cole, but everyone in the community. I appreciate that, Sean. Appreciate that a lot. Enjoying Dynamis as well. Thank you. What is happening in the community is really crazy. Thank you, Toby. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I just I have to call out Dynamis a couple of times throughout this stream because it is where a lot of big things are happening. Even with Archon and everything else around building agents and context engineering. But yeah, okay, so here we go. We got our document created. It's untitled, probably just because Mary didn't really understand exactly how to create the document in Archon. I mean, it's just, the little things that we're working through still. But here we go. We got next steps. We've got a risk assessment. And so again, all the genius things that the guy behind BMAD created, all the research he's done around prompting and project management, providing the right context, we see that in the different sections that we have here. We've got our objective goal. We got our project overview, the scope requirements, and if I scroll down a bit more, I'm curious if I can get to the things where it's more specific to the research I did with Claude Code. Okay, so technical specifications. Let's see if this gets into it more. Okay, we got our tech stack. This looks pretty good. Real time with sockets, Next.js. Nice, looks good. Okay, direct SDK integration using TypeScript and Python wrappers. I don't actually like that. I don't want Python wrappers. So that's another thing I'll say in general with context engineering is like it's so important to validate the output that you have from these kinds of sub agents and just any coding assistant in general. They'll hallucinate weird things like this. And so I'm actually going to go back into our analyst here and I'll say I don't want a Python wrapper for anything. Also, I need you to write out some more pseudocode. Do some more research on integrating Claude Code SDK with a Next.js backend. Search the Claude Code docs some more for this. Okay, so I'm going to have it correct itself in a couple of ways here. So you guys are seeing live how I'm like looking through something, finding those code smells or like the doc smells, or I'm like, that is bad. Like I if I'm using Next.js, it can be my front end and my back end. I don't need Python wrappers for anything. So clearly it got confused just as it was searching through the docs. But that's okay. So yeah, it's going through and it's performing RAG and searching through the code examples again. So we'll see what kind of token or what kind of output we're getting here. Okay, so this is actually what I wanted, because now the main thing that I needed to understand is this import right here is actually super crucial, because we need to leverage this query in order to call into Claude Code from our Next.js backend. And I'll show you guys specifically the docs that it is referencing. Is I'm talking about this, or not, where is it? This thing right here. So import query from Claude Code, and then like here's like a super basic example of how you can call Claude Code within your TypeScript code. It's like this would be within our API endpoint in Next.js. So this is what it just found when it searched through using the knowledge that we have crawled with Archon. So that's really good. That's exactly what we wanted it to find. So now we can use that, and it's just wrapping up here. So I'll let it wrap up. And it also did a web search here just to like supplement its information, which by the way, Archon doesn't have to fully replace the web search that most coding assistants have. Like you can use these things together. Like I love seeing it when it performs some queries, like looking at code examples and performing RAG, and then it also does a web search and it combines all that together. So yeah, we'll see that. And then it's going to update the Archon project. So it'll go ahead and update the brief that we have in the UI as well. Did you update the brief in Archon? Make sure you do so. Okay, because I need to see that. Like I don't just want the output here. I need to update the brief. And this is a good example where, okay, this sucks. I'll come to this in a second. This is a good example where there's definitely an opportunity to customize the prompting and the global rules to make Archon integrate more closely with BMAD. Like the analyst here, Mary, she didn't quite understand that like, oh, I have to go back in and update Archon. I mean, apparently she said she did, but she didn't. It's just super weird. Like that seems like a problem in the prompting somewhere. But like, yeah, there's definitely an opportunity to have like a BMAD specific set of prompts where it's like, for the analyst, this is how you work with Archon. For the PM, this is how you work with Archon. Like that's kind of going back to what Maxim said earlier. Like that's the goal. That one of the goals that I have for Archon is making it so that like there's a pre-configured setup to work with these different strategies. We have now updated our brief. So we did a bunch of searching here. Now we've updated our brief in Archon with some more technical implementation. So let's actually go back into Archon. Let's check this out. So I'm going to refresh. Go into docs. Oh, this is the wrong project. Here we go. All right, we got a title now, by the way. That's good. So Mary fixed things with version 1.1 to actually add a title. And cool, she even labeled herself. This is cool. So this is another neat integration. Something that's another big thing. I know that I'm talking a lot about like the vision of Archon here, as well as showing it, but I think that's important. Another big thing we want to do in Archon is make it integrate really, really deeply with the idea of sub-agents. And so different documents can be labeled by the agent that created them. Different tasks can be assigned to different agents. Like we can have Mary tasked with the research and the like initial like kind of like all the analyst stuff, right? Like we're creating our brief here. And then have like the project manager tasked with the things that we have related to creating the PRD, having the developer tasked with things related to the coding and the QA agent. Like we can have these different tasks that are assigned to different things that we have in our task list here, and then have them all coordinate together. And so we have like clear boundaries in what sub-agents are implementing what things based on their assignment in Archon. That's another thing that we're looking to do as well. So Here's Mary has added version 1.1 for the brief. So we have a lot of the same things as before, like our scope requirements and our tech stack and resource requirements. But then we should also have more of a technical implementation. Like here, for example, we got some actual like code in here. And I'm not gonna like go through and like validate all of this right now because I do want to move forward. But like we have some more like technical pieces to our implementation now. So I think that's a good starting point. We'll kind of go with that. Like talking about the context manager pattern, like things that are specific from the Clone Code docs that I found. So that's really good that we have that now. And we used Archon to fetch those things because who knows if a web search would have been able to get something that specific. And also, it's just nice that like we can pull code examples and things from Archon as well. So okay, there we go. We'll go ahead and move on to the next thing here. So we have our brief created now. And so actually what the founder of BMAD recommends doing is clearing the conversation entirely when we go on to the next agent. So we've been working with the analyst agent this entire time. Now it is time to move on to the project manager. So I do PM /PM and then tab. So I'm now invoking the project manager because essentially what we want to do now is we want to take the brief that we've created in Archon based on all the research we've done and everything, and we want to turn it into a PRD. So it's going to be more specifically like, let's dive into the specs for what we want to have created. So now we have John, our project manager. And it's actually pretty cool because I invoked John and right away he goes into the existing project that we have for Archon. That's pretty cool. So we have no tasks yet, but yeah, that's right. Like right now we just have the doc in the project. So I can do star help to see what we can do with our project manager now. The thing that I want to do is create a PRD. So yeah, let's go ahead and I'm going to copy the command here. So specifically what we want to do is we want to create a PRD. And I promised that I would talk about working with brownfield projects as well. So we're creating something from scratch here. But if you're working in an existing code base, like I said, the big difference is with existing code bases, generally, you're going to be more referencing existing code versus with a new project, you're looking to external documentation for things like architecture and best practices. And so there are actually different commands that we invoke in John, our project manager in BMAD, based on if it's a new project. This is for a new project. This is for an existing project. Like if we're creating a PRD to add a new feature into an existing code base. And so I won't showcase this right now. But yeah, the diagrams that we have for BMAD, if I go back to that here, there is a different step that we take based on if it is a new project or an existing one. We're kind of at this stage in our diagram now. So I'm going to paste in my command here. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. Let me copy the other thing that I have just from my notes here, my other monitor. Okay, this is what I meant to do. So we're going to call the create PRD command, and I'm telling it to pull the brief that I have in the Archon project, and then I want it to create the PRD in Archon as well. So we'll have a second document after we invoke this command. And also, the big risk that I have to tell you guys with Claude in general and with BMAD is it oftentimes loves to over-engineer. And I'll show you guys what it looked like. This is really unfortunate. The other example that I showed you guys, so like this project that I had created to like play around with BMAD initially, it created 123 to-dos. It completely over-engineered with like super random tasks and things. Like this is the risk that you have when you have Mary and John working together to create your initial PRD. Like things just get so overly complex because it's trying to build like this full production ready software for you, and you don't need that to get started. It's way too much to go through it in one time at one time. So yeah, I would say like my biggest tip is in your global rules for your coding assistant and just generally in your prompting. It's important to be clear quite often that you want things to be simple because Claude loves to over-engineer. It's so annoying. We don't want 123 tasks. We want like 10 to 20. Like that's what I'm hoping to create here. And so I'm telling it to not over-engineer and just keep things simple. And so first we'll see it call into Archon. So I'll use the MCP to grab the brief. There we go. So we pulled the brief. I can do Control R to expand it. We can see it. It pulled the brief here. And then it's going to do some research. I forget exactly what the project manager does to like create the PRD. Like I forget if it does research or if it more just like takes this and transforms it into a PRD, like just with its own reasoning. But we'll see in a second. This will obviously go for a little bit though because, or no, I guess it, wait, I guess it's almost done. Here's our simple PRD. Okay. Product vision, core problem. Here's our solution. A lightweight Next.js app that wraps Cloud Code SDK to enable multi-instance management. That's perfect. That is a one-liner for exactly what I want to create here. So it's good. It understands what I'm looking for. And then here's our MVP. Here are things that are out of scope, so it's avoiding complexity. I actually love this a lot. So when I was playing with BMAD initially, it was like including like all of these things. Like, and I actually remember seeing this explicitly, that it was like trying to implement like team features so we could have multiple people managing this whole like application, which that's cool, but like let's not try to implement that right now. It's good that we're excluding some of these things. So we're starting with a simple local app like we have with Archon, then we can build these things after, which by the way, that is actually what we're doing for Archon. Like in scope, what we built for the beta of Archon is let's give a simple and beautiful user interface to manage projects, knowledge, and documents. Then when we start to move out of beta and get a lot of feedback for how we can improve the platform, then we'll start to add in different context engineering strategies and being able to manage the full suite of context. And let's get into enterprise features and make it so you can host Archon. Like that, those are all the things that are coming for Archon. But we got to start simple, because if you try to do too much at once, like coding assistants like to do, you are just in for a world of hurt. And so we're starting simple. I actually appreciate this a lot. So let me go back down. Okay, so yeah, out of scope. Here's our simple architecture. I mean, I kind of wish it expanded on this a little bit more at least, but that's okay. Because I actually love it when coding assistants will output like the code base, like the structure that they're looking to implement. But yeah, here is our tech stack. Xterm for terminal display. Sounds good to me. Next.js 14, Tailwind. Looks good. No need for... Okay, so it's just going to do local storage for the config. So we're not even using a database, which I think that's fine, I guess. For this implementation, we'll call it good. Maybe it's actually a little too simple. But I think for the cases of our live stream here, because we're already at 1.5 hours, this is probably good. So yeah. All right, let me go to success criteria, development principles, good. User journey. Okay, now we create this document in Archon, so cool. All right, so let's actually take a look and make sure this was created and that it's looking good. So I'll go to my projects, I'll go to this one that we have new here, go to docs, and there we go. Here is our PRD, nice. Cloud Code Instance Manager, simplified PRD. And yeah, it looks like there's a couple of little issues here. Like I said, the docs part of Archon is like the most experimental right now. And so it's expected to not like look perfect right now. There actually is a PR out from Sean to improve a lot of these things. So we got improvements coming for this like really soon. But yeah, this is looking really good though. We got our tech stack, folder structure. Here's our scope, looking really good. Like perfect. All right, we got our PRD. Like now we're ready to dive into the implementation. Yeah, like this is great. I love how it looks overall, even though it's not like perfect yet. And then there's also a markdown editor. If you want to edit things yourself, you can do so. So you can be a part of the process of editing the doc right in Archon and then saving it to your Supabase. So like all these documents are stored in Supabase, so you can reference them between sessions, even between users very easily. Like one thing that us like core maintainers for Archon, like everyone in the Dynamist community, what we're looking to do is actually like spin up a shared Archon instance, which it doesn't actually mean. Like here's the cool thing with Archon. If you guys want to share your Archon instance with other people, because everything is stored in Supabase, it's not like you have to host one Archon instance and then deploy it to the cloud. Like you can have everyone running their own Archon instances locally, just pointing to the same Supabase database that you have in the cloud. And so obviously that wouldn't work for like local hosted Supabase, but if you're going to like supabase.com and creating a project there, then everyone can use the same Archon instance. So you can have everyone working on the same projects and docs. They're just all running their own Archon pointing to the Supabase in the cloud. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna clear, and I'm gonna go on to the next agent here. So going to our flow within BMAD. Let's go back. So next up, we have our architect. So we're going to create the architecture from the PRD. And also I'm going to actually have the architect create tasks for us in Archon. So I'll do /architect. Good. And then I'll do the help command after it runs its little intro message for me here. Or I guess it's going right away. Wait, what is it doing? I'll help you set up the Archon project management system for a BMAD app. Let me start by checking what's available in the Archon MCP and create a project structure. Um, all right, it's just going right away. This is interesting. I'm just gonna let it run. Like I said, we're freestyling today. When I tested the architect before, it didn't do this, but now it's just like running right away. And it's okay. So now now we're integrating BMAD with PRP. Let's go. Okay, this is interesting. I'm just gonna see what it does. Um, what is it doing? Okay, I need to stop it now. Sorry, architect. What's the architect's name? The architect didn't even tell me what its name is. It just went right into it. What is your name? All right, because it create the thing that made me have to stop it is that it created a third project, and that's not good. Like I needed to. I'm gonna just go ahead and delete this project because I need it to reference the existing one because we got our docs here. So, but that's all good. Like it's fine just to correct it quick. Okay, so it's Winston. So Winston dove in right away before even introducing himself to me. Okay, okay, Winston. I need you to use the existing project in Archon, and then I'll just call out the name. So let me go back here. I'll copy this because I just don't want it to reference the old one that I had just to like show you guys a previous attempt. So yeah, okay, so using this project, read the PRD that we have stored in that project in Archon. Then I want you to shard the PRD into tasks, no more than 20 tasks, and put those in the tasks for the Archon project. All right. So basically what I'm telling it to do is pull down this document right here. And then based on all the requirements that we have and everything, I want it to just create 20 tasks. So we start building up our Kanban board here so we can dive into the implementation. And so I don't know if 20 is enough or not. I just want to like really keep it simple here. And so yeah, so it's pulling the document here. And now we're starting to create some tasks. And so we should be able to see this pop up in real time as we go. So let's see what it's doing here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's creating some tasks. There, sorry, I'm having an issue with my browser here. Okay, yeah, there we go. So it's creating some tasks here. Like, let's see, this one right here, create the Cloud SDK wrapper class with TypeScript. Looks good. And it's referencing the specific file to implement. It's talking about error handling with some like specific errors that, so like this class, the CLI not found error, like it found this from the Cloud Code documentation. So this is based on its research that it did with the Archon reg, the functionality that we gave it. So yeah, it's looking good. So it's going through, it's creating all these tasks here. And yeah, I'll just kind of let it run with that. So I'll go to the chat here while we got the tasks being created in Archon. Winston is deaf on the chopping block. Yeah, come on, Winston. No, it's all good. Because like I said, there's probably a lot of opportunities to integrate BMAD with Archon a lot more with like just even the way we're setting up the global rules, telling Winston how to use Archon, so it doesn't make those assumptions like he did initially. Which yeah, so like I don't really blame him. But it was funny. So yeah, LLMs and sub-agents, they're inconsistent in the way that they leverage the tools that we give them. And so that's why it's really important to be super specific with our prompts. Let's go back to, I'll just refresh to make sure. Oh no, it was already loaded here. So we got the 20 tasks for our project here. So it's starting all the way at the beginning with initialize the Next.js 14 with TypeScript and Tailwind. And then we create API routes. For different things. Looks good. Build, create the instance model form. Okay, all right, good. All the way to final testing and GitHub release preparation, which maybe that's a little bit of over engineering. But yeah, within each of these tasks, we also have a description, so we're giving more context to whatever ends up implementing this, what exactly we're looking for. And here we're specifying things like using xterm.js. So it's very much referencing the plan that we have in our PRD. It's putting those things into the descriptions here. Like we have our tech stack being referenced throughout our tasks. And so everything is like very integrated here. That's the beauty of it. And so now going back to my architect here, there's a lot of other things we can do. So I'll kind of like continue with the common theme here of like, I'm not going to be using everything within these subagents just to keep things concise, but I want to like show you guys some of the other things you can do with these different subagents with the BMAD method. And probably some other things that could like integrate more with Archon as well. So our Winston, this devious little architect that didn't even introduce himself at first, he can do a lot of other things. We can do some more research if we wanted to. Like I could actually have him like research best practices for architecture, going back to Archon for the docs. We can have him create a front-end architecture specifically, which if I had the time here, I probably would actually do this. I think that would make sense because a lot of what I'm building here is reliant on the front end being quite robust, especially being able to like have terminal output for our different Cloud Code instances. Like definitely that would be important. However, to keep things concise, I'm going to clear. I'm going to say we're good here. So we got our tasks, we've got our PRD, like we have all the context we need to really start diving into the implementation. So our PRD plus our tasks plus probably leveraging our knowledge base even more, like that's everything that our development agent now needs. And so there are some different agents within BMAD, like we have the dev agent. I could dive into using this. We also have the Scrum Master agent. If I wanted to invoke the Scrum Master agent, we could dive into these things. That's really going to be that second part of the flow that we have in BMAD. So like we basically went through this whole planning workflow, and I know I skipped a lot of things, but like we went through it, and a lot of it is optional. And now we've gotten to the point where we're ready to go to the development workflow. And so we kind of go in a cycle here where we generate these stories based on our PRD. I kind of did something a little bit differently in Archon, where instead of stories, I more just have like the different tasks in our project. And so now we can start knocking these off one by one. And in order to do this, I actually kind of want to use PRP. Like I said, freestyling. I'm going to switch from BMAD to PRP. So we used BMAD for the planning, and that's kind of equivalent to creating like our initial.md file, where we're just describing those initial requirements that we have to create our PRP. And so I'm going to do something kind of interesting here. So within my VS Code, I'll just pop this up quick. Within my VS Code, the same place that I have BMAD set up, I also downloaded the starter for PRP. So we have our two commands to execute and generate PRPs. I've got my template to base a PRP off of. By the way, this is all available to you guys in the context engineering intro repository that I've covered on my channel a couple of times. And so I'm just pulling all of the like getting started stuff from this repository so we can implement PRP. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spec, the PRD that we generated with BMAD, and I'm going to turn that into a PRP so we can just start implementing it with all the tasks that we have in Archon as well. So this might be a little bit of over-engineering, but I think this is cool to experiment with. So we're just going to do it. We're going to go ahead and do it. So I'm going to do /generate PRP. And then typically with PRPs, you want to reference a file that has your initial requirements. But instead, I'm going to say, look at the, or I'm going to say use the PRD we have in the Archon project. And then I'm going to go back to Archon because I got to copy that name again of the project here. Cloud Code Instance Manager, Next.js Control Center. There we go. So I'll copy this, paste it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to generate a PRP, which is it's going to take the PRD and turn it more into a prompt for our coding assistant. So we have things like validation gates, so it understands how to validate its work. We're going to be more explicit with like the final code base architecture that we want. And so yeah, I'm gonna let it run and do that. So yeah, let's actually go back in the terminal here because we have our PRP. I'm gonna get back to the coding for a bit, but I really appreciate being in the chat with you guys. So like I said, like we're going through this thing. I don't think we're gonna build it from or like fully build it here because the focus is showing you how to integrate BMAD with Archon, and now we're talking about PRP as well. We're freestyling, and I just want to talk with you guys, have a chat with you guys, and answer your questions. So I'm putting a lot of emphasis into that as well. But yeah, here is our PRP. So I'm going to open a preview of it so you can take a look. There we go. Got our purpose, our core principles, and our goal. So we're following the base PRP. This is the template that we're basing this off of. Let me go back. There we go. So we got our why, we got our what we're building here, we got our success criteria. Here's all the documentation that we want it to read through, which that's good, but also I want to tell it to use Archon as well. So I'll say use Archon for Claude Code, SDK, and Next.js docs. Yeah, so I think I'll just leave it there. That's good. So within the documentation and reference, I should have been explicit when creating the PRP that I want it to use Archon, but this is going to work as well. So I'll just add it here. Must read, you must use Archon for Claude Code, SDK, and Next.js docs. So we can kind of more supplement the research that we've already did with the Archon MCP. And then doing some research on like Xterm and real-time patterns. Looks good. Here's our desired code base. See, this is beautiful. Like, this is what I like seeing. And Claude actually does a really good job at respecting the desired code base tree. And so this is what our end result is going to look like, where we have our API, where we have the routes for managing Claude Code instances. We have the different components for displaying the terminal and the logs. Like, this is really good. We've got known gotchas, and then we have a lot of pseudocode here, and the list of tasks that need to be implemented here, which I'm going to just tell it to use Archon, so maybe there's a little bit of a disconnect here. But yeah, it looks pretty close to what we actually had in Archon, so I might have even referenced it. I'm not totally sure exactly, but yeah, then we just have a lot of pseudocode. So yeah, and then I guess the very last thing is the validation gates or validation loops. So one of the really important parts of the PRP framework is telling the coding assistant how it can iterate and validate its own output. So like with linting checks, and we're going to have it write unit tests and integration tests, which I'm actually going to take out integration tests because that's probably too much for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. So again, just like with validating code that's outputted from your coding assistant, you want to validate the PRP before you execute it. Make sure that it's aligned with what you want to create and that it's not over-engineering, because that's another big thing that coding assistants do, like I was talking about earlier. We got our final validation checklist and then some anti-patterns here. So we're looking good. And our confidence score is not as high as I want it to be, but just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. So I'm going to clear the conversation. I'm going to say execute PRP, and then the path to our PRP is PRP's Claude Code instance manager.md. And then the other thing is, I'm going to kick this off. I'm going to say use the Archon project for task management and Archon for reg. And then I'll say the project is, and then I'll go back into here. I should just like memorize this. Let me copy this. Cool. Go back in here and paste that. All right, there we go. Okay, and it actually was checking for projects already. So it knew to use Archon, but now I'm just being explicit telling it which project to use. So there we go. So now it knows which project to use, but it's gonna look there already anyway. So all right, we're using Archon right away for our implementation. So we got one task that's done. Okay, now moved on to the next one, is in progress. So now it's installing and configuring Claude Code with Xterm. Okay, so we're good. So it's moving through the implementation. Now the rest of this, we're just gonna have to wait a while because it's gonna have to knock through all these tasks, but you can very much see that it's doing so. And it's leveraging Archon, and this is beautiful. Want to ask again, wouldn't it be a better idea to have ready-made boilerplates to start with and have the agent choose the best one that fulfills most requirements and build on that? Yes, definitely. And yeah, that's one of the things that I was talking about earlier for one of my long-term visions for Archon. So I love talking about the long-term for Archon because as exciting as it is what we have built right now, there's so many more things we have to make it like way better. And so let me talk about that again. And this might be like a little bit of reiterating, but still, it's really cool to talk about and just like get our brain juices flowing for what's possible with a tool like Archon. So one of the things that we have in the Dynamis community is, I've kind of been referencing this, but I haven't been showing it yet. We have the Context Engineering Hub. So this is private to the Dynamis community, but I definitely want to like share a lot of these resources with all of like just to my YouTube channel as well. But one thing we're working on in Dynamis together is we're working on the Context Engineering Hub. This is going to be basically a gold mine of resources for PRP templates and slash commands and global rules and Claude hooks and subagents that everyone is contributing together as a community. We started this like really recently, actually. And so one of the goals with this is to eventually integrate it with Archon, where Archon can look at this Context Engineering Hub and it can say, and you would tell it like, I want to build a Next.js application, or I want to build a Pydantic AI agent. And Archon will search through these different things, just like it searches through knowledge with RAG, and it'll be like, oh, sweet, here is the Pydantic AI PRP template. So you have a boilerplate, like you said, Rami, and like, oh, here are some slash commands and Claude hooks and subagents that will work well to help you build out this agent. And then, oh, here's the Python global rules. Like if we go to our global rules here, and we're continuing, like we just started building this out. So there's not a ton here yet, but we're working on a lot of resources here. Like here's Rasmus's global rules that he uses for all Python applications. And so Archon would pull this because you're building a Python Pydantic AI agent. And then it would go into your knowledge and be like, oh, you're building with Pydantic AI, so let me go ahead and find what I want to crawl for Pydantic AI, and then I'll go ahead and crawl that and add that, and then I'll make a new project for you in Archon. So you have like all this boilerplate set up for you to just like, and by the way, look at how much it implemented already. We're already on task 8 out of 20, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, anyway, like that's like the dream for Archon, to make it so that it is the command center for all context engineering, just getting you started no matter the project that you have. And a lot of that does rely on us building out this context engineering hub. But this and Archon are like the two big things that we have going on in Dynamis. Maybe that, like, and the AI Agent Mastery course, where I show how to build agents from start to finish. So like I said, a lot of really exciting things going on in the community. So if this sounds interesting to you, like if you want to dive in and contribute and even just leverage these resources and be a part of the long-term vision for Archon, Dynamis.ai, that's the place to check out. So I'm going to plug it again because it just relates so much to what we're talking about here, and everything that we've got going on. So yeah, let me go back and see where we are at with Claude Code. Okay, so yeah, it's just chugging away. Like it's killing it. Nice job, Claude Code. So yeah, okay. Our application is. Wait, is it actually ready? Okay, I'm gonna try this. I doubt it's gonna work first try, because I cut a lot of corners to just like speed up things and show you guys the whole BMAD. But let's try this out. Actually, this would be so cool if we at least get some kind of visual here. Let me make sure npm install. Let me make sure everything's installed first, and then I'll try to run it. Okay, npm run dev. Okay. No errors. Oh, that'd be so cool. All right, let me spin this up. Okay, so it looks really bad. It looks so bad. I guess maybe there's probably a tailwind issue. Yeah, there's a tailwind issue. Okay, so the CSS isn't working. It's probably a simple thing, but help me make $1 million. Create instance. Okay, that's actually really cool. Okay, so we got another error. Okay, so we got a couple of errors, but like clearly it's like kind of there. There's two things we'd have to fix. Okay, let's try to fix. Let's try to fix these. So I'm gonna go back to my Claude code and say I'm getting this error for Tailwind CSS, and then also when I start a Claude instance, I get this error, and it is stuck on, what is it stuck on right now? So I'm just trying to be like kind of specific here. Usually when you're troubleshooting things with coding assistance, it's helpful to be like quite specific on like when the error is happening, what the error is. So it's stuck on processing prompt, this error. I'm just typing this off camera really quick, so I'm gonna copy this. If I go to the issues that we're getting, there we go. And if I look at the, I forget how to, oh yeah, here we go. I'll just copy the full call stack here. Okay, there we go. So I'm sending it in. I accidentally pasted the call stack twice, but it's probably fine. But yeah, let's just have it lock out these things, and we'll see what we can get. So I'll just be ready to run it again here. But okay, that'd be so, I mean, we got like kind of something. It looks terrible, but there's no way I would expect to one-shot this application, even if I spent a lot of time architecting and validating the PRP, which, especially because I didn't, like I definitely wasn't expecting it to be great out the gate. But I feel like just with like my intuition and experience with coding assistants and what I was looking at there, and like how specific the errors were, I don't think we're that far from at least having something pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna try something right now. I'm gonna try running the server even though it's in the middle of stuff, just because maybe it's to the point now where it's working. Oh, ooh, okay, it is. It's getting there. This is cool. Okay, now we got a real UI. So we fixed the stupid Tailwind stuff for the most part. Oh yeah, so it's just running the type checks at the end here. So I think it is pretty much done. Okay, well, yeah, 24-hour stream. Definitely not a 24-hour stream. If you guys if you guys look on my live tab on my channel, I do have a 12-hour stream from before I really started diving into YouTube. I'll just leave that there and move on. But yeah, okay. So create a new instance, code review, assistant. Help me make $1 million. All right, create instance. Okay. I don't see any logs. And okay, so 2% right before the auto compact, we finished. And it's view terminal. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's working. So, okay. So I don't know. I don't know if we're 80% of the way there. Like I said, it's the expectation that, especially because I rushed through some of the things, that it's not going to be like perfect, but like we've got something to start with, and vibe coding is never going to get you 100% of the way there. And we definitely did, like, Archon helps with structured approach context engineering. But what we did today, rushing through things, was more vibe coding than I'd want to do, definitely. But like, I hope that like I explain things well enough, like when you'd want to dive in deeper, so that you understand how to not vibe code as well. So it's like, let's go through things quick, but I'll speak to like when you'd want to slow down. I hope that makes sense. And so we definitely could be making this a lot better if we put more time into it. But yeah, I mean, it's we've got something working here. All right. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the stream now. I've been talking for 3 hours straight, and I think I'm gonna take most of the day off and get that recap uploaded tomorrow. And I'm gonna be super active in Dynamis tomorrow as well, and then going into next week. Well, I mean, I always am, but yeah, I know that I already heard from my wife that there's an influx of people joining Dynamis, which I appreciate a lot, guys, because we're gonna be doing some amazing things together. So yeah, all right. I'm gonna eat some lunch too. Right. Yeah, I have not been drinking any water. I have my water here specifically so I could drink, but I never remember to do that while I'm in a live stream. I always forget. There was one live stream a couple ago that I did. I actually gave myself like I brought coffee to the live stream, and I remember holding it up at the start of the live stream. I'm like, "Here's my N8N mug. I got coffee because we got a chill, casual live stream today, and I'm gonna be sipping my coffee." And then I sipped it once the entire live stream because I totally forgot about it because I get so into it. Like, you guys have no idea how much it takes, like, mental effort to be like watching the chat, watching my stream, and like kind of checking on viewership, and then like diving into Claude Code or whatever, and like it's a lot, but it's really fun. Like, it's so worth it. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here and being a part of Archon. As you can see, like, not perfect right now, but it's freaking awesome, and there's so much more that we got coming really soon for it, and a really amazing long-term vision. So yeah, definitely check out Dynamis if you guys want to be a really big part of it. But also, like, it's a totally public open source project, and we got a public community as well. So yeah, options either way for you guys, but yeah, big things coming for Archon, short and long term. So thank you everyone for being here and following along, and your questions and comments. Hope that you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.